Now, migrants who were evacuated from the Bibby Stockholm Barge have been told they're going to be returned next week. That's as part of government plans to crack down on the numbers being housed in far too expensive hotels. 39 men were removed from the floating accommodation in August after a Legionnaires outbreak. The move back to the Bibby Stockholm comes just 1 week after Home Secretary Suella Braverman vowed to do whatever it takes to finally end illegal migration to Britain. Joining me right now is a former Border Force Chief Immigration Officer, Kevin Saunders. Good afternoon to you, Kevin.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, the announcement about this return next week of these migrants, they were pulled on and then they were hauled off because of this outbreak. Big concern about the fact that the government had been warned that they hadn't got the all clear and that there was a risk of Legionnaires' disease, and yet these migrants were put on the barge and then had to be removed. Do you support them going back on?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. I mean, the barge is a proven facility for people. The Germans have used it, the Dutch have used it. There's no problem at all why we can't use it. It's a better facility for the migrants. It's got everything on board. It's got food on board. It's got medical facilities there as well. So it's much better for them, and it will mean that possibly we can reduce the hotels by a little tiny bit.
The trouble is, of course, I remember when the day this barge opened to house 400 migrants, all men travelling alone without family, as most of these migrants are travelling across the Channel on those dinghies from Calais and elsewhere in France. On that very day, more than 400 people arrived fresh at our shores on those dinghies, having paid the people smugglers. So a lot of people, including myself and our audience, was like, what's the point of this barge? It's just loads of publicity, loads of hassle, for loads of expense for one barge that basically will house 1 day of arrivals. It's just a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but it's if you put a lot of little drops together, then you get bigger drops, because we're seeing that Scampton will be taking migrants within the next week or so, and we're going to have up to 2,000 there. And then Westerfield down in Essex will have the same. So by the end of the year, we're going to have probably 4,500 people in out of hotel accommodation and into this sort of accommodation, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we're going to get a decision on Rwanda.
Well, that's
soon.
it. We are on day 2 of that Supreme Court hearing, the government challenge to the Court of Appeal hearing earlier this year. It's basically said they thought that the Rwanda policy was not legal. We've had some evidence yesterday and today, the Home Secretary's, Suella Braverman's representatives saying that they believe that Rwanda is a safe place to send migrants. But we've also seen the revelation that although the plan is to send a few thousand, actually, Rwanda's really only prepared for a very small number. We're looking in the low hundreds. So is the Rwanda plan the solution?
Yes, Rwanda will. And there are rumours that if and when Rwanda takes off, another 5 African countries also want to get involved. So, again, another small drop might lead to even more happening. So we've got to keep our fingers crossed on this one.
And we've also heard talk, haven't we, that Rishi Sunak has been talking to fellow European leaders, including Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, elected on this specific issue of the migrant crisis in Italy, to actually get the Europeans to work together to tackle this issue, to act as one. Do you see any hope of that, any likelihood of that?
Well, it would be very nice if we could get the Europeans to all work together. I mean, Spain, where the meeting was, didn't even have illegal migration on the agenda until Georgia and Richie actually stamped their feet and said, come on, we've got to have this. So it really goes to show how some of the Europeans actually feel about it. But if you could convince Spain, France, Italy and Greece to work together and put their naval forces onto the Mediterranean and actually stop the boats coming across and come up with a deal for Tunisia, possibly Libya, to take them back, then that would be half the problem solved.
But it does seem, and again, yeah, solving the problem in the Mediterranean, which is far greater than the problem across the Channel, would help to solve the problem across the Channel. However, whenever we cut off one particular route, another route opens up, such is the urge for people to get to Europe. Such is the amount of money available to be made by the smugglers. It seems to me that, you cut off, one head, another, the snake grows another head.
Oh, you're quite right. It's just like the Hydra in Greek mythology, cut off one, another two grow. And I am sure that once we've stopped the boats, then another cunning plan will be hatched by the people smugglers.
Well, indeed. I mean, a lot of the people coming on the dinghies are people who previously would have come over through lorries, but they managed to close down that route. People smuggled in through the tunnel in lorries, on ferries. They closed that down, and now it's ferries. On the dinghies. We closed down the dinghies. What happened? What are they going to do next?
I do wonder if they might try and get into Ireland. And once in Ireland, try and come to the UK through Northern Ireland. But, I mean, that's just me thinking out loud a little bit. I've got no evidence to support that. OK. I mean, yes, this one is just going to run and run. We've got a 3 days hearing, so we've got another hearing tomorrow at the Supreme Court when it comes to the Rwanda hearing. We're not going to get a decision until November. Realistically, do you think if the government loses this, that they will go ahead anyway by hook or by crook? Do you think this will become an election issue? What do you think will happen? I think if Rwanda fails, then I'm quite sure that we will come out of the ECHR.
European Convention of Human Rights, European Court.
Yeah, and I think that they will make it an election issue. Yes, because Labour have got no answers. I've heard nothing from Labour that fills me with any hope whatsoever. Okay. In fact, I was incredibly worried when a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Starmer was talking about doing a deal with Europe, which involved taking over 100,000 refugees. Yeah,
well, that would be the premise, wouldn't it? We send people back, but they'll send people to us. Really appreciate you joining us. As always, that is Kevin Saunders, a former Border Force Chief Immigration Officer. Thank you.